Bournemouth head coach Andone Iraola says nothing is signed and Antoine Semenyo will play against Arsenal tomorrow, despite a move to Manchester City being close. And there's been a big done deal today. Crystal Palace have signed Brennan Johnson from Tottenham Hotspur for a club record £35 million. Good evening, welcome along to the Transfer Show. Happy New Year. The January sales have begun, so who will find the perfect fit over the course of the next month? I'm joined by two men who shop exclusively in the bargain bin. James Savundra and Mark McAdam are with me, and they'll round up all the key transfer lines from today's manager news conferences.
We are open to every option. Obviously, we can find a solution that is short, medium and long.
I hope I can be here more time, but I don't know what's going to happen.
If any players come and knocked on your door and asked if they could leave this month, I mean, Joshua Oates is someone who...
No. We decided 2 months ago we are not convinced to sign him.
We play well to stay, you play well to get away, so it suits everyone to play well and have a good attitude.
I think our injury situation to a degree will impact what we do and don't do.
Let's start, though, with some breaking news concerning Manchester United and their search for a central midfielder. Let's come to you first, Mark. What can you tell us?
Yeah, well, when you talk about Manchester United and transfers, it's always significant. There's always a lot of interest because it's one of the biggest clubs on the planet, and therefore the fans are desperate to know what they're going to do in January. We know that Ruben Amorim has been speaking today about potential incomings, and we've got a little bit of breaking news here on Sky Sports News with regards to what they're looking to do, not necessarily in January. However, they have explored the possibility of signing players in the winter window. They're also looking ahead to the summer as well, but they have explored conditions of a potential deal for a central midfielder, the Brighton man, Carlos Baleba. We know that they have an interest in the player. They have been linked with him in the past, and they have explored conditions of a deal in this window. Brighton's stance is, as it always is, Carlos Baleba is not for sale. He's someone that we rate very highly, and therefore we are not interested in selling him, particularly during January. He has a contract until 2028 with a year's option on Brighton Hove Albion's side, so he's got a long-term contract, so we know that any potential deal would be significant. Brighton don't want to lose what they deem a key player at 21 years old. We know what happened to the last central midfielder they had that was very highly rated. Moises Caicedo went for what was then a Premier League record, £115 million. Carlos Baleba very much in the same remit as far as they're concerned. They don't want to lose him. They see a huge future for him down on the south coast. But the fact that Manchester United are in the market potentially to sign a player in January is hugely significant, and he's not the only name on their list as well.
Who else is?
Well, United's priority is signing at least one, possibly two central midfielders in 2026, whether that be January or more likely in the summer. The focus is on signing them in the summer because it's quite a difficult window to get those long-term targets. And we understand the list of targets includes Elliot Anderson, Adam Wharton and Wolves' João Gomez. We know Casemiro could depart this summer. There is an option that Manchester United have to trigger an option in his contract to extend his time at Old Trafford. But those terms aren't favourable for Manchester United right now. Kobbie Mainoo's future remains unclear. Manuel Ugarte has not delivered so far in a Manchester United shirt. So you can understand why they're looking at one, if not two, central midfielders this month, more likely in the summer. But if they can bring in a player like Carlos Baleba in January, it could make such a big difference in terms of what they're able to achieve this season. There's been some mixed results for United, mixed performances over the course of the last few weeks, but they are well placed to deliver European football once more. So whether or not they can get a player in January to help support that and bring life into a season which has faltered at times, we wait to see. Carlos Baleba would be a player who could make a difference for United.
You mentioned a couple of sort of big names there. People know about Adam Wharton, people know about Elliot Anderson, people know about Baleba. A couple of names I just want to put on your radar as well and put on the radar of Manchester United fans. Lille's Ayoub Bouadi is another player that Manchester United are in. Young player, he's only 18 years old, one for the future. Another player that is of interest to Manchester United, another player that they're currently tracking, Christoph Mouzakitis. as well. He's at Olympiakos, 19 years old, another youngster, another one for the future. We know that every single Premier League club wants to sign these young players that are teenagers that they can mould and develop into superstars. And it seems to be that everyone just wants players under the age of 22. But Manchester United, whilst they're focusing on the players that James has mentioned with experience, that are Premier League ready, they've also got their eye on a couple of youngsters in Europe that are also doing the business at the moment. So really fascinating stuff to come out of Manchester United. What feels like a strategy, a plan. They've got targets. They've got long-term targets. For the first time in a while, it feels like Manchester United are doing what Manchester United fans want them to do, and that is go and target the right positions with the right type of players, and of course players for the future as well. So really fascinating stuff to come out.
You would think that also that reflects that they will be aware that some of the clubs who own the players you've just mentioned, it will be difficult. You just touched on Carlos Baleba, but Nottingham Forest, for example, who are fighting to stay up, will not want one of their best players to leave the club in January for any fee, you would suggest.
No, absolutely not. None of these players will be easy to get, and particularly when you're Manchester United and the phone starts ringing, they think, well, we'll charge you more because you're one of the biggest clubs commercially in the world and you've got the money to do it. One of the key things for Manchester United is that they get into some form of European football. It really needs to be Champions League football because the extra 70 to 80 million pounds that competition brings enables them to go to the next level. A, they can say to the players, we're playing Champions League football, which all young players want to do. And B, the finances that will add to their accounts give them the opportunity to go and spend that little bit more money because it increases their turnover, which means that they actually can play at the big boys table, which has sometimes historically, recently been more difficult because they haven't been able to give Champions League football or pay the wages that perhaps other clubs can do because they have to be a little bit more conscious of PSR. They still are a huge juggernaut when it comes to finances and they still generate huge sums of money, but they've had to be more careful and conscious of it than perhaps they have done in the recent history.
So what might be possible for Manchester United in January? Ruben Amorim was asked about recruitment in his news conference today.
The transfer window is not going to change. We have no conversation in this moment to have any change in the squad. There's a process. There's an idea that is going to continue. We are near the places of Champions League, but we are near also for like 8 teams behind us. So let's focus on the next game, just that, and our focus is to win the next game.
So Ruben Amorim is focusing on the next game, James. Behind the scenes, they're clearly focusing on central midfield. Are there other positions as well United would like to strengthen?
Yeah, they're looking at forward options. Antoine Semenyo was a market opportunity and represents a market opportunity in January with that release clause. United were in the market for him. They wanted to sign him, but he looks destined to join Manchester City. They could offer a better package, and right now they're a club who are very close to winning trophies, which is somewhere United aren't at right now, but somewhere that United want to be very soon. They're also monitoring the situation around players like Jean-Philippe Mateta at Crystal Palace, who got back to scoring ways yesterday, not being in the best of form for Crystal Palace right now. He's only got 18 months left on his contract, and it doesn't look like there's a real likelihood of him signing a new deal. So potentially in the summer, that represents a window where Jean-Philippe Mateta could move. I think it's unlikely Palace will sell him in the situation they're at and the competition they're in right now at the moment. The other player is Jan Diomande from RB Leipzig, a winger, 19-year-old, one for the future. They're also looking at centre-backs because, yes, they've got plenty right now, but Harry Maguire is out of contract in the summer. And Jeremy Jacquet, Crystal Palace were in for him in the summer. They end up signing JD Convo, but Jacquet from Rennes is a player they're looking at as well. So very much players they're looking at for now, but also those for the future as well as they try to get United back to where they think the club should be.
He said something similar, Mark, towards the end of last season about not having too much room for manoeuvre in the market. One of the keys probably for Manchester United was getting players out as well. Anthony going, Jadon Sancho going out on loan, Marcus Rashford going out on loan. Which players do you think are dispensable this month, and would Joshua Zirkzee be in that conversation?
Yeah, he's absolutely a player that potentially could be leaving Manchester United. We've heard from Ruben Amorim there, and he was quite clear, really, in terms of no one has asked to leave, and he's not expecting anyone to ask to leave. However, Joshua Zirkzee taken off at half-time against Wolves after scoring, and we know that there is interest from Roma. Does it feel like his days are coming to an end at Old Trafford? Yes. There's normally noise because there's an opportunity. Clubs don't generally go in for clubs or make it known that they're interested in players if they haven't been given some kind of assurance or guidance or a little bit of information from the representatives of the player. Yeah, he'd be open to coming. He's not particularly happy at the club, or he's not getting the game time he wants at the club. So let's get some noise out there. You make the approach and we'll see if we can get a deal done. Joshua Zirkzee, certainly one player that's on the radar of Roma at the moment, and you'd imagine there may be an opportunity for him to move on. Certainly, if not permanently, then at least on loan between now and the end of the window.
We've talked about central midfield and the options that Manchester United have looked at or have on a shortlist. Some Manchester United fans will say, we have quite a good one at the club. He's played for England at the last major tournament. Why aren't you using him more? Kobbie Mainoo.
Well, Kobbie Mainoo, he's currently out injured. He's missed the last couple of games, but when he was fit, he wasn't given opportunities. He's yet to start a match in the Premier League so far this season. It's our understanding, despite the fact there continues to be talk around Kobbie Mainoo, that United would only consider selling him if they receive an exceptional offer. And in terms of any outgoings in this January window, there would have to be, if they were to be loaned, with an obligation to buy, whereby United would receive a fee for the player. They're not going to be doing any clubs any favours, especially right now. They're potentially missing up to 8 first-team players for that game against Leeds this weekend. And we understand that Kobbie Mainoo, despite the fact it doesn't feel that way, is a key part of Manchester United's long-term future. And Ruben Amorim feels he's part of the long-term future as well. But what confuses us sometimes is the fact that Ruben Amorim doesn't seem to find a place for him in the starting 11 when he's fit. He says that Bruno Fernandes is the first choice in that position, and Kobbie Mainoo can only play in that position. Bruno Fernandes, when he's fit, doesn't miss a single minute. He's rarely taken off in games either. So Kobbie Mainoo, it's a weird situation whereby we're being told he's a key part of United's future, but when he's fit, we're not seeing him feature. And that is the disappointing thing for Manchester United fans. That's why he gets such a brilliant reaction when he comes onto the pitch. This is the player who scored the winning goal in the FA Cup final just over 18 months ago against Manchester City. But now it doesn't feel like there's a real route into that first team for him, especially when they want to sign 2 more midfielders.
A question then for either of you, that can both of those things not be true? That he can be seen as a part of the future, but for the moment, Bruno Fernandes is the preferred option. But Bruno Fernandes is nearly 31, I think. So particularly in a central midfield position, 2 or 3 more years at the top before Kobbie Mainoo does become the future of Manchester United.
I think with Kobbie Mainoo, because he's played for England and he's played at Euros for England, his career has accelerated at a rate that nobody really predicted. And he became a regular first-team player at Manchester United. I think we see the same with Miles Lewis-Skelly at Arsenal as well. They've accelerated to such a level where they feel like they should be getting first-team opportunities because their performances have merited them. But when you're such a young player, there are times in your career where progression isn't always upwards. And you're right, he's just 20 years of age, so perhaps some patience is required, because in 2 or 3 years' time he could become the most important player at Manchester United. But clearly he wants to be playing first-team football. He's been given first-team football in the past, so it's difficult for him to understand why he's not featuring, and it's difficult for a player that age not to be playing football either. So I understand where you're coming from. It feels like he could be a player for the long-term future, and we may not see him as much now, but clearly he's impatient. He wants to get on with his career. He wants to get back into that England side, which feels a long way away right now.
Just a reminder then of the breaking news that Manchester United have explored the conditions of signing the Brighton midfielder Carlos Baleba in January on a shortlist that also includes Crystal Palace's Adam Wharton, Elliot Anderson of Nottingham Forest and João Gomez of Wolves as well. When we come back, we'll talk about Antoine Semenyo and when he might become a Manchester City player. Welcome back to the Transfer Show. Let's talk the future of Antoine Semenyo, who looks as though he might play his final game for Bournemouth against Arsenal tomorrow ahead of a potential move to Manchester City. Andone Iraola gave this update today.
There is nothing signed. There is nothing signed. For sure, there are conversations. I understand a lot of the noise around, but there is nothing signed. Antoine is our player, and I hope. Obviously, I've said it a lot of times. I want to keep him for a lot of time, but I don't know what's going to happen, yes.
What do you sense, Mark, that the Bournemouth view is that this is one last hurrah against Arsenal?
Not according to Antonio Raiola. He's very much anticipating Antoine Semenyo to play and be involved in the squad against Arsenal tomorrow, and then potentially Spurs the week after. Until it is signed, Antoine Semenyo is very much a Bournemouth player. Now, it feels like we've been talking about this potential move to Manchester City for some time now. You know, last week it was close. Now it's even closer, but how close is close? Not close enough as far as Pep Guardiola is concerned, although Manchester City appear to be really relaxed and Bournemouth are really relaxed. I think the key thing is that Anton respects the contract he has. He respects the fact that Bournemouth are paying his wages and are his club right now. The fact he's willing to play whilst he's got this huge move on the horizon that will be to, you know, serial Premier League winners Manchester City, and a great opportunity for him. Says a lot. The expiry date on the clause he signed in his new contract in the summer is January the 10th. So Manchester City have until January 10th to get the deal done. And
did you get the sense that he'll play 2 games before January the 10th, and then?
It certainly feels like that at the moment. Now, I would be gobsmacked if he wasn't involved tomorrow against Arsenal. What happens thereafter, we don't know. But it does raise questions as to what happens over the coming days with regards to this potential move, because it's a big move for Manchester City, around £60+ million as a transfer fee, and clearly someone that Pep's identified to improve that City side. Bournemouth are, albeit in a relegation scrap, and they're on a really poor run at the moment, and Antoine Semenyo represents the best opportunity they'll have to try and beat Arsenal tomorrow, which will be a really tough challenge anyway, with their star man. And he's, in 5 days' time, he's 26 years old. So he'll probably want to get this sorted and celebrated so he can enjoy his 26th birthday.
Don't want to ruin your party, do you, Mark? Absolutely not. It's interesting, James, as Mark was just talking about his character and the fact that he is keen to play, and we've obviously spent a lot of the summer talking about various players who were refusing to go and do their job. It could be a sort of bit of secret agent work to help out his future club if he goes and plays well against Arsenal tomorrow night.
You're right, because there's only 4 points difference between the two clubs in the table right now. Arsenal at the top, Manchester City, they're 4 points behind them, and arguably a goal he scores tomorrow against Arsenal would be as important as a goal that he could potentially score for Manchester City against Chelsea this weekend, because of where they are in the table right now. And he's in excellent goal-scoring form right now, isn't he? 3 goals in his last 4 matches, an assist against Chelsea too. And I think he owes a lot to Bournemouth, and he feels he owes a lot to them as well, because they have turned him into a Premier League superstar in 3 years since he joined from Bristol City. His level hasn't dropped in recent weeks, whilst this transfer has seemed really, really close. And you wouldn't expect that to change tomorrow as well. It is a slightly bizarre situation, because it feels like everybody knows what is going to happen. It is just a matter of time, but in that time, he's going to be featuring for Bournemouth and helping Bournemouth to record a first win, because it's been a long time since their last win in the Premier League.
And it's, I guess, a calculated gamble on both the club and the players' part, in that if, touch wood, it wouldn't happen, but if he was to get injured, badly injured in that game, then Bournemouth lose a huge chunk of money. And you sort of never know as a player when the move might come along. It has happened in the past where it has got this close to a move happening, and the player actually might go and knock on the manager's door and say, look, I don't think tomorrow is right for me to be involved in this game, because it could scupper everything for me and for you.
That's what you'd expect to happen, but it hasn't happened. And Antoine Semenyo hasn't said that to Bournemouth, and Antonio Raiola's picking him and playing him because he knows how important he is to that starting 11. So I think it shows a lot. I go back to last summer when Dean Howson was going to Real Madrid, and both Real Madrid and Bournemouth had an agreement that Dean Howson could play, and regardless of what happened in the match with regards to any potential injury, he would still go to Real Madrid. So even if he got injured in those last couple of matches he played for Bournemouth, he would still become a Real Madrid player regardless. So
the difference is, though, that he's a really young guy, isn't he, Dean Howson? That, you know, he's got probably, what is he, 21? So he's got 15 years of his career
19,
ahead of him.
20, yeah.
Whereas this is a little bit different because of the age, you might argue.
Yeah, but again, only Manchester City and Bournemouth can ultimately answer the question as to the agreement they have or the understanding they have between the two clubs. But what it feels like, it's one of respect, and it will be driven by Antoine Semenyo. He will be saying, look, if he said I don't want to play, then the chances are he wouldn't play. The fact that he's playing would suggest he's happy and comfortable to give everything he possibly can and do what he can for Bournemouth, because he believes he owes them right to the last moment until the contract is signed.
OK, let's quickly move on to Crystal Palace, who've completed the £35 million club record signing of Spurs winger Brennan Johnson. He's available for Sunday's trip to Newcastle.
Yeah, I just want to say that I'm so excited to play in front of them and hopefully meet some of them around. And yeah, a massive thank you for all the messages that I've received so far. People wanting me to come and showing that love, and it's something that I appreciate a lot. So yeah, I think I'll always try my hardest for the club. It's someone that I can really see myself falling in love with. So yeah, I'm excited to come here and play in front of you guys.
Just take us through the details firstly then, James.
£35 million fee. He signed a 4.5-year contract, and Crystal Palace have wrapped up this deal so quickly. He is available to feature against Newcastle this weekend, and they need him because right now they're down to the bare bones. I spoke to Oliver Glasner yesterday. He said they're in survival mode because of the lack of players they have right now, and it breaks the transfer record they set in 2016 when they signed Christian Benteke for £27 million. So it shows how frugal they've been, I guess, with the money in recent time, but they've really backed their manager, bringing in a big player like Brennan Johnson on the second day of this transfer window.
And I think Spurs have sort of intimated, Thomas Frank, that they need to become good sellers, so it's maybe one that works for everyone.
It feels that way. I think there'll be disappointment from some sections of the Tottenham support base, but I think there has been some fans who haven't been impressed with him, some who like him. His goal-scoring record was brilliant last season when you look at the numbers, but sometimes the play wasn't quite what they wanted. Mohamed Kudus seems to be the main man on the right-hand side. There didn't seem that room for Brennan Johnson this season.
OK, lots more to come between now and 8 o'clock. We will take you round all 20 Premier League clubs and the latest news in the early stages of this transfer window. One thing we know for sure is that Harvey Elliott is not going to become an Aston Villa player on a permanent basis. We'll explore why that move hasn't quite worked out for all parties. Much more to come on the Transfer Show. We're back in a couple of minutes.
Hi there, welcome back to the Transfer Show. Time now to bring you the latest from all 20 Premier League clubs. Mark, where are you going to start?
I think I might start with this man, and Arsenal, because Arsenal are likely to be quiet in January, but Mikel Arteta says that the club are open to every option when it comes to signing players in this window.
Unai Emery has admitted that Aston Villa have decided not to make Harvey Elliott's loan move permanent from Liverpool.
Antoine Semenyo is expected to be involved against Arsenal tomorrow. That's despite the forward closing in on a move to Manchester City. Bournemouth have also signed free agent Fraser Forster on a 6-month deal to add goalkeeping cover to Andoni Iraola's squad.
Brentford head coach Keith Andrews is confident of retaining his key players during January and backed the club to make really sensible decisions over any new signings.
Brighton have completed the signing of Pascal Gross for a second time from Borussia Dortmund. The midfielder has signed an 18-month contract.
Scott Parker has admitted Burnley could be forced to act in the January transfer window, as after club captain Josh Cullen was ruled out for around 9 months with an ACL injury.
On to Chelsea. West Ham have asked about taking Raheem Sterling on loan from Chelsea, but the player will only leave on a permanent deal this month.
Big day for Crystal Palace. They've completed the signing of Wales international Brennan Johnson from Tottenham Hotspur in a club record deal worth £35 million. He signed a 4.5-year contract.
Everton boss David Moyes has revealed that Everton will only dip into the January transfer market if the right player becomes available.
Fulham boss Marco Silva says winger Adama Traore remains in his plans, as despite being linked with West Ham.
Leeds are in the market for attacking players to boost their survival chances, but they are limited by PSR constraints.
Liverpool are looking at defensive reinforcements and a wide player this month. However, they will only sign the right players.
Manchester City are still working on a deal to sign Antoine Semenyo for around £65 million. Borussia Dortmund are keen on signing Oscar Bob on loan.
And latest coming into us this evening, Manchester United have explored the conditions of signing Brighton's Carlos Baleba this month. However, a deal is unlikely in this window. United's priority in 2026 is signing at least one, maybe even two top central midfielders. Baleba is on a list of top targets at United that also includes Nottingham Forest's Elliot Anderson, Crystal Palace's Adam Wharton and Wolves' João Gomez.
Newcastle boss Eddie Howe has played down the suggestion of the Magpies being active in the January transfer window. Any signings are likely, though, to be in defence.
Nottingham Forest forward Arno Calamiondo is set to join Eintracht Frankfurt on loan. That's according to our colleagues at Sky in Germany.
Sunderland have a large squad, so their focus is expected to be on outgoing moves for players not playing regularly or out of contract in the summer.
Spurs are expecting to do business in January, especially amongst the forward line, having allowed Brennan Johnson to join Crystal Palace.
Striker Tati Castellanos will undergo a medical at West Ham this weekend ahead of his proposed £25.2 million move from Lazio. West Ham are also looking to sign forward Pablo, who had a medical today ahead of a potential £20 million move from Gil Vicente.
Wolves boss Rob Edwards is not concerned about the form or future of Jurgen Strand-Larsen, despite speculation surrounding the striker.
Let's get to Brighton, who have re-signed Pascal Gross today from Borussia Dortmund on an 18-month contract. The German midfielder played more than 250 times for the club in his first spell and said it's a dream come true to return.
I'm very happy to be back at Brighton. It's never easy leaving something, but I had also very good memories in Dortmund, what is also a really special club. But I'm really pleased and really happy it all went through, and I'm able to play for Brighton again in the Premier League with a lot of people I still know here. The club, the fans, I'm really looking forward.
Did you have any other options when you decided that you were going to leave Dortmund, or was it always going to be Brighton?
I had a couple of options, and obviously you get informed by your agent what kind of options you have. But for me, I was from the start. I told him my wishes, my dream is to come back to Brighton and play here again in the Premier League.
Does it feel a little bit of a romantic return, Mark?
Yeah, do you know something? It's funny because Fabian Hürzeler said, he really wanted to work with Pascal Gross, but when he joined, Pascal Gross left for Borussia Dortmund. But he brings a wealth of experience. He knows exactly what Brighton and Hove Albion's all about. He's got leadership qualities, and that was something that the club mentioned in their press release when they announced and confirmed the signing this afternoon. Over 250 appearances for £1.2 million. Again, it's a bargain. And I think this is something that is just really sensible from Brighton, because we know that they use a lot of data in their recruitment. So clearly the data stacks up with regards to Pascal Gross. But everyone wants to sign these young, exciting, talented youngsters. But for young players to develop and become great players, they need experience around them. And they need to learn on the training pitch and in the dressing room and on match days and in certain match day environments and game environments. If you've got that old wise head to just talk you through little moments in a game, that can be the difference between 1 point and 3 points. And having someone like that in that Brighton and Hove Albion dressing room makes so much sense. And for him, it was an absolute no-brainer to go back to the football club. And 18-month deal as well. I know he's into his 30s now, but I think he'll bring so much to that really young, exciting Brighton group. And I think those other players that will be around him on the training pitch will start to learn very quickly. He's also got the World Cup in his mind. And as a German international, when you've got 6 months to a World Cup, which will be his last ever opportunity to play in a World Cup, he's thinking, I need game time, I want him to be involved, I love my time at Brighton, this works for me right now, this is the perfect destination.
Yeah, Mark touched on it there. The youth at Brighton, they've fielded the youngest Premier League 11 in a game this season, which was their goalless draw against Sunderland a little bit earlier on in the campaign. But he adds to a nucleus as well of very experienced heads in and amongst that youth.
He does, alongside James Milner, who will turn 40 in a few days' time.
Amazing.
Danny Welbeck as well, arguably the player of the season for Brighton. And you speak about the experience, but there's the versatility as well. In his first spell at Brighton, around 7 years he spent there. He played number 10, right back, centre midfield, and on either wing, left back as well. And for Brighton right now, they're in a situation where their season feels like it's meandering. They're 14th in the table, 11 points off the drop. But actually, when you look at it in a more detailed way, they're only 5 points off fifth. Winless in their last 6 in the Premier League. But this could be a signing that really helps add a bit of impetus into their season, which does seem to be meandering. He could help get them back on track. And they're very close, if they get a run together, to doing what they've done in recent seasons, qualifying for Europe, ending up in the top half of the table. So I think it's a really astute signing. He was the first Premier League player they signed. They went up into the top flight. He's coming back now at a time of a real need, it seems.
What about the leaders, Arsenal, then? Mikel Arteta insists they are open to doing business this month, whether that's bringing in a player on a permanent or loan deal.
We are open to every option. Obviously, we can find a solution that is short, medium, and long. It's always much better because it gives you stability and you don't have to constantly start a process with a new player. But let's see what happens. Let's see what the news are in the next few weeks, and we will try to make the right decision.
Again, a very interesting balancing act of, do you want that one player who might carry you over the line and deliver that Premier League title, or do you want to potentially risk just upsetting the apple cart a little bit?
It's felt like in recent transfer windows that Arsenal have risked upsetting the apple cart when you consider the players they brought in when they've been in a position of strength. You go back to signing David Raya when Aaron Ramsdale had a really good season for Arsenal. And in the summer, I think they surprised us with what they did in the defensive areas when they brought in Christian Mosquera and Piero Hincapié. But it's paid off because Arsenal have suffered with injuries. They've had 127 injury-related player appearances missed this season. 18 players have missed at least one Premier League match. So I think if they see a market opportunity, they see a player that ideally they were looking at for the summer and getting in January, then they'll try and do it. But I would be surprised if they look to do anything in this transfer window, especially with players like Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz returning from injury. It feels like the strongest squad in the Premier League right now. But Arsenal have shown time and time again, even whilst they look strong on paper, whilst they've got players in every single position of the pitch, 2 players in every single position of the pitch, if they see someone they think can help them towards this first Premier League title since 2004, then they will look to do something.
Whilst we have seen injuries at Arsenal giving opportunities to others this season, not necessarily Ethan Nwaneri, just 6 sub-appearances in the Premier League. So what might this month hold for him?
I honestly don't think he'll end up going anywhere, because Mikel Arteta will be saying to everyone, I don't want to lose any players. This represents my best ever opportunity to win a Premier League title. We have on paper the strongest squad in the Premier League. We've got a little bit of daylight between us and Manchester City at the moment. And any injuries that occur in the second phase of the season, when you are into the latter stages of cup competitions and you are in the business end of the season, the last thing you want to do is loan someone out who, it might be right for Ethan Nwaneri to go and get game time, but what happens if they suffer a couple of injuries and suddenly they're down to the bare bones in a position and they think, well, we shouldn't have let him go on loan. Yes, it was the right thing to do for the player, but was it the right thing to do for Arsenal Football Club? And right now he'll be saying, I don't want anyone to leave the building because the players that are here understand what we're about, understand the philosophy. I don't have to re-coach anyone that comes in. I don't have to worry. Just keep it as it is. If we can add to it, fine. But they won't want to risk upsetting what they've got. And that's a really talented squad that is capable now, it feels like, at the halfway stage of the Premier League campaign to get the job done. If the first half of the season is replicated, Arsenal are going to be Premier League champions.
What about the team that they thrashed last week, Aston Villa, by 4-1? Their manager Unai Emery has confirmed that they'll cut short Harvey Elliott's loan move from Liverpool to make way for signings in January. Villa signed Elliott on loan with an obligation to buy if a certain amount of appearances were reached.
This year he's on loan, and in case he's playing matches, we must buy him. And we decided 2 months ago, we are not convinced to sign him, spending the money we will need signing him. And this is the only issue. But he's training every day. He's always every day with a very good behavior, the commitment to help us in the training session and understanding as well his situation.
This move, it feels a shame. It feels a little bit of a waste for everyone involved.
I love Harvey Elliott. I think he's an outstanding player. I was there at the Den when he made his Fulham debut as a 15-year-old in the Cup, and he was brought on to the pitch, and at 15 years old, you could already see he had something about him. He wanted to get on the ball. He had all that ability in the world. He then leaves Fulham, goes to Liverpool. He could have had his choice of clubs, Arsenal, Bournemouth, Man City, Manchester United. Everyone met Harvey Elliott and his representatives, and being a Liverpool fan, that was his destination of choice. He's been brilliant as a squad player at Liverpool, but in the summer it came to an end and he fancied a new challenge, and he felt like at the right time Aston Villa was the moment for him to move on and develop as a footballer. Clearly it hasn't worked. You get the impression that maybe the sporting director Monchi wanted Harvey Elliott, Unai Emery not so much, because he's just not had any game time. My understanding is that the obligation in that loan deal would only be triggered with 10 appearances, 5 of which had to happen after January the 1st. So therefore, with what Unai Emery has said, it tells you that Harvey Elliott's no longer going to play. One of the problems is this financially is going to really challenge Aston Villa, because they've committed a lot of money to Harvey Elliott, to his representatives, to Liverpool to make the deal happen. So to send him back to Liverpool is going to be quite costly for Aston Villa. So therefore, Liverpool will probably say, well, we didn't really budget to have Harvey Elliott in our squad. They can't send him anywhere else because he's already played for Aston Villa and Liverpool, and rules don't allow you to play for more than 2 clubs in a season. So he's going to have to play at Liverpool if he doesn't stay at Aston Villa. But I think everyone at Aston Villa they'll probably feel like it's a shame this hasn't worked out, because we saw something in him. I think he's an outstanding player that's got so much more to give. He was the player for England at the Euro 21 tournament. Absolutely incredible individual with so much talent. But he just almost needs to rebuild himself. And hopefully, if he does go back to Liverpool, he'll get the game time that's needed to continue that development. But there's no question there'll be a lot of suitors in the summer, should he be available again. And yeah, I think this will just get put down as an expensive mistake for Aston Villa.
Yeah, and I think, James, I saw him certain links with Charlotte FC and MLS being one of the clubs potentially interested in. There are only certain parts of the world where he could end up. But unless it's just he wants to play no matter what, I can't quite see what somewhere like Charlotte FC would do for him.
He's in a really difficult situation. Just to confirm the rules, he can't play for another Premier League club this season because he's already played for Aston Villa and Liverpool. He can't play for a third club, and actually he can't play for a third club that operates in a late summer to spring season because of what's happened at Liverpool and Aston Villa so far this season. So it means the only options for him to play any football between now and May are if he plays in the MLS or in one of these Scandinavian leagues, and that's why this Charlotte FC link has come around. We understand they're interested in signing him, and it's up to him what he's motivated to do. Would he rather just train, whether it would be at Aston Villa or Liverpool, and work out his next steps, or does he want to play football? Charlotte FC are managed by Dean Smith. Maybe this feels like a great opportunity to put what's been a really challenging 6 to 8 months for him, because he had the massive high of winning the Under-21 tournament with England, being the player of the tournament, and thinking, right, if I have a good season here, I can play for the World Cup for England next summer. That's not worked out. So potentially a trip to the US for a few months could be what he wants right now, to get away from it all and to just enjoy playing football again. It's a real shame how it's worked out. You wonder how Aston Villa got themselves in this situation where they put this loan together with an obligation to buy it, and within a few weeks it became clear that Unai Emery doesn't rate him, well, not doesn't rate him, but doesn't rate him.
Felt a bit of a panic on deadline day, didn't it?
It feels that way, and it's an expensive mistake that Aston Villa have seemingly made, and Aston Villa aren't in a situation in terms of where they are financially, in terms of PSR rules, where they can afford to make any mistakes, really.
Well, Emery outlined how demanding he is of the hierarchy at Villa as the club look to navigate profit and sustainability rules to recruit new players in the January transfer window.
We are trying to understand how we can improve our squad, but of course intelligently, and as well with the rules, financial rules. I am so demanding with the club as well to be alert and to be always in the transfer window, trying to identify young players, trying to identify, like Alisson, potential players.
Rob, you cover Aston Villa a lot. One new signing in already, Alisson?
Yeah, and interesting as well, because Damian Vidagani, who is the football director there, sort of intimated that he is being seen as one for the future and that you can maybe not expect to see a huge amount of him, a teenager that's arrived from Gremio, but he does potentially offer something that Villa don't have in terms of a wide player with a bit of pace who can beat a man. 3 years ago, Villa signed John Duran, and Unai Emery said something very similar, that maybe don't expect to see him too much. And I think he was actually introduced a little bit sooner than we all expected. Duran is interesting because Villa got rid of him last January, and that opened up a little bit of scope for them to do what they did at the end of the window, which was 4 really important deals to almost get them into Champions League football, to get them into Europe, quarter-finals of the Champions League, Marcus Rashford on loan, Asensio on loan, Disasi on loan, Donyell Marlon as well. I think they're going to have to try and be clever again. Those sorts of players, loan players, clever bits of work. One for the new sporting director, Roberto Alabe, to have a little bit of a look at. So we'll see what Aston Villa do in the coming weeks. More transfer news on the way. Updates from West Ham, who are looking to bring in 2 new strikers over the course of the weekend. It is semi-final night at Alexandra Palace and the world champion is in the house. Luke Littler taking on Ryan Searle for a place in the final. You can get odds of 16-1 on for Littler to beat Searle tonight. Searle playing in his first World Championship semi. A reminder that after that is Jan van Veen against Gary Anderson in the other semi. It is all live on Sky Sports Star as the atmosphere continues to build in North London. Difficult for you two to follow that, but we'll have a crack. Mark, let's start with the champions, Liverpool.
I think we should have walk-on music for this show.
I'll give you some music to get off.
West Ham, yeah, busy.
No,
in the
Liverpool
market.
First, come on.
Oh, Liverpool first.
That's why you don't get walk-on music.
Yes, sorry. I'll pick up my P45 on the way out. Ifani Ndukwe. He's only 17 years old, youngster, Austria-Vienna player. He's 18 in March. Liverpool close to an agreement with Austria-Vienna. He would link up with Rob Page's Liverpool under-21 squad in the summer, should that deal get completed. But yeah, Liverpool looking to the future with Ndukwe.
Let's move on to West Ham. Not a surprise, given that Mark's already teased it there. Already been a busy window for them. Lazio striker Tati Castellanos will undergo a medical this weekend after agreeing a £25.2 million fee. Castellanos could be the second West Ham signing up front, with Gil Vicente's Pablo undergoing a medical today ahead of a £20 million move. Busy.
Yes, you've said it all.
Good.
There we
Nothing
go.
else?
No, that's it. Pablo,
Great.
Not Picasso. 10 goals in 13 appearances.
Oh, good. I'm glad you got something else to add.
Sorry. Do you know what? He's a goal scorer at the moment. In the 13 games he's played in the Portuguese top flight, 10 goals is pretty special. West Ham fans will be saying, please just come and score us some goals because we're desperate to have someone like you. Hopefully Pablo can be the Brazilian flair that they've been lacking this season and can really bring something to Nuno's squad.
What about outgoings?
Nicholas Fulkrug, he's been a real disappointment. 3 goals in 29 appearances. His loan move to AC Milan has been confirmed. There's an option to make that transfer permanent as well. And also at the same time, they've agreed to sell Luis Guillaume, another player who hasn't worked out for West Ham, to Sporting for around £17.5 million. Really important they bring those strikers in. Callum Wilson, the only senior striker available right now. Some really important games came out for West Ham.
Gentlemen, thank you very much indeed. What would you like for your walk-off music?
Dancing Queen, ABBA.
Perfect. We'll tee that up. Lots more to come over the course of this month. Back on Monday with Good Morning Transfers. That is at 8 o'clock in the morning. Transfer Talk is on the way at midday. And the Transfer Show is back evenings and afternoons, 4 o'clock and 7 o'clock every single weekday. Well, away from the transfers, as for the football itself, this man is under big pressure at the moment. Wilfred Nancy has had a terrible start to life at Celtic, but today he came out fighting in his news conference. We will get the best of that, plus the latest from the darts when we come back.